No blinding cameras, no TLC show producers calling out action. Only the empty ring of shiny shoes over the chilly tile floors of the Flagstaff courthouse. The air was stale, dry, the sort of air that tastes of truth on the verge of coming up. Janelle was seated at the plaintiff's table, not with an entourage of attorneys standing behind her, not with a camera-worthy face, but with a straightforward manila envelope. It didn't look like anything, but it wasn't. Cody Brown sat across from her, stiff, jaw clenched, arms crossed like a man attempting to hold together a crumbling empire with raw willpower. Robyn was not sitting next to him this time. She was in the back row, all in black, eyes flitting like a woman, hoping the court wouldn't say her name. Christine and Mary weren't present to watch. They were named as silent parties of interest. But Janelle, she was finished being silent. The judge paused to slowly adjust his glasses. "Miss Brown, you allege this envelope holds documents which establish Mr. Brown stole more than $2.3 million in joint family funds without disclosure. Is that accurate?" Janelle didn't bob her head. She gazed at Cody, she observed him. "This envelope," she whispered, "has just what he believed no one would ever discover: the missing years, the withdrawals and silence, the paper trail that goes straight back to his office. And Robyn's," the judge leaned forward. "Then show it to me." Cody didn't stir, didn't flinch, but the vein on his temple throbbed like a signal. Janelle opened the envelope. Within was a color-coded timeline, a collection of notarized statements, and 4 bank printouts, each with a label and a stamp. At the top of page 1 was a line that would turn everything around. The 14th of April, 2017, $73,200 transferred from family account into Dalton Holdings LLC, memo, property taxes, Robyn's Flagstaff home. And with that, the court went quiet. The binder was imminent. The audio would follow. But Janelle had only struck the match. And Cody Brown, the husband who'd kept his secrets tied up in charm and anarchy, was about to find out that one wife could leave. But another wife with proof, she enters. Judge's eyes narrowed. "Whose side are you actually on now, Cody Robyn, or the lady with the paper trail?" The courtroom did not gasp, it nodded, similar to a single breath being held by all attorneys' clerks. Even Robyn, hoping to know if the manila envelope Janelle had just opened would break the illusion that had bound the Brown family together for more than a decade. The judge carefully removed the papers from her, eyes squinting as he read the first 2 pages. Cody shifted for the first time. Not towards Janelle, not towards the judge, but in the direction of the exit, as if part of him still hoped to escape before the storm hit. The form Janelle presented was not a binder. Yet, that would wait. This was the primer, 4 years' worth of monthly bank statements, each of them highlighted, annotated, and dated in ways that fell too conveniently into line with family mayhem. The Christmas of 2017 that was abruptly canceled, the out of the blue struggle years of 2019, the switch to reduced family therapy. On every one of those dates, there was something chillingly absent on the bank statements. Transfers, deposits, payments, and all of them pointed to the same name, Dalton Holdings. Janelle's voice was firm now, firmer than she'd ever been in any confession cam or interview. "Your Honor, this is a ledger of more than 80 transactions that were flagged from our joint family account. Funds that were drained into a firm none of us ever knew existed. Not me, not Christine, not Mary, and definitely not the children," Cody broke. "Finally, this is a misunderstanding," he barked, voice echoing off the walls. "That account was created for tax protection. Every own benefited from it, but the judge raised a finger. Mr. Brown, you'll have a chance to respond, but for now, you'll remain silent." Robyn flinched at that, subtle but visible. Her hand gripped the edge of the bench. Cody glared back, his face still, and then Janelle pushed the last page across the table. "This isn't a ledger. It is notarized. These records were read over and verified by a retired IRS agent who also happens to be my cousin." The judge's head snapped up. "And they're going to testify." "She is in the hallway now," Janelle answered. Cody's fists clenched so hard his knuckles whitened. Because now this wasn't merely family drama. This wasn't a plotline from TLC. This was legal. This was quantifiable. This was fraud. The courtroom doors swung open. The auditor entered, and poof, the Brown family wasn't merely breaking down, it was being audited by blood. What happens when the woman you underestimated walks in with your secrets? Notarized. She didn't appear threatening, middle-aged, gray blazer, plain glasses. A piece that had not come from television melodrama but from years of painstakingly sorting through spreadsheets. For the government. But the moment she stepped onto the witness stand and was sworn in, the whole atmosphere of the courtroom changed, because this wasn't a wife. This wasn't an ex. This was a professional, and she wasn't upset, she was exact. "My name is Carla Jensen," she started off, her voice clear. "I served 27 years with the Internal Revenue Service as a business and family trust fraud auditing specialist. After retiring, I started providing forensic accounting services on a private basis." She nodded to Janelle. "Undefined, my cousin came to see me in early 2024 when she noticed discrepancies in the family's financial statements." She held up a file of her own. "Undefined, this is the report I provided to Janelle's attorneys." Cody's attorney, already perspiring, rose to object. "Your Honor, this witness has a personal relationship with the plaintiff," but the judge cut him off. "That relationship has been disclosed. The court will hear the findings. Proceed, Miss Jensen." She clicked a small remote, and a screen behind her lit up with a chart. "Over a 6-year period, Dalton Holdings LLC, registered to a mailbox in Cheyenne, Wyoming, received a total of $2.73 million in wire transfers from 3 family-associated accounts." She clicked again. Only one of those accounts was known to all wives. The other 2 were kept off general documentation, and according to this affidavit, she tapped a sheet. "Were opened under the authority of Cody Brown and co-signed by Robyn Brown in 2016. The court murmured. Robyn blinked like she'd been slapped. Cody turned in his seat. "She didn't know. I handled all the finances. She just signed what I gave her." But Robyn's silence now said something else. Her eyes were locked on the screen, on the chart. On her own name, highlighted in red, she knew. Maybe not then, but she knew now. "Of the $2.73 million, Carla continued, $1.9 million was used for private real estate investments, home renovations, and liquidated accounts not declared in family tax filings. The remaining $800K was distributed across personal travel, luxury purchases, and non-family beneficiaries, specifically Robyn's biological children." The courtroom didn't gasp. Again, it tightened. Cody's jaw moved, but no words came out. Christine leaned forward in her seat. Mary glanced at Janelle, eyes wide. And the judge. He closed the binder in front of him slowly. "Miss Jensen," the judge said carefully, "based on your professional analysis, do you believe these actions constitute a breach of fiduciary duty in a shared marital entity?" Carla nodded once. "I do, Your Honor, and if this were a federal audit, I would recommend immediate seizure of all LLC-linked assets." That's when Cody finally stood. "I protected this family," he shouted. "I did what I had to do to keep us from losing everything." The judge raised his voice for the first time all day. "Mr. Brown, sit down." The courtroom was no longer about love, loyalty, or plural marriage. It was about numbers, paper proof, and Janelle? She hadn't brought revenge, she had brought receipts. What do you say when the one person who never yelled just proved you've been lying? There's a moment in every courtroom where truth doesn't arrive with a scream, but with a whisper, a quiet slide of paper, a slow blink, a single nod from a woman who finally has nothing left to protect. That moment came when the judge turned to Robyn Brown and asked, "Did you, at any point, review or question the documentation Mr. Brown asked you to sign between 2016 and 2022? The room froze. Robyn didn't cry. Not yet. She didn't shake her head or reach for Cody. Instead, she looked down at her lap and said softly, "No, Your Honor. I signed what he gave me." But then Janelle stood, binder now in hand. Not the manila envelope, the binder thick, tabbed, color-coded. Christine's famous weapon had made headlines, but this one, it was quieter, colder, more clinical, and far more dangerous. She opened it to a section labeled 2020 to 2021. Inside were 3 documents, copies of promissory notes, wire instructions, and 1 scanned contract transferring partial Coyote Pass ownership to Brown Consolidated Trust, signed by Robyn Brown. Janelle didn't look at Robyn as she slid the page forward. She looked at the judge. This contract was executed 6 days after Cody told the rest of us we couldn't move forward with developing Coyote Pass because of bank complications. She tapped the page. Here's the bank's confirmation that the account was in good standing. And here, she flipped to another sheet, is the wire transfer to Dalton Holdings, LLC, $248,000. The memo reads, Emergency restructuring. The judge raised a brow. And Mrs. Robyn Brown's signature appears here? It does, Janelle said. And it's been verified by a handwriting analyst. Robyn's hands were shaking now. I didn't know what that document meant, she whispered. He said it was a consolidation to protect us. Christine leaned forward. He said the same thing to me in 2019 when he emptied the Vegas proceeds. Janelle remained composed. We were all told the same thing, trust me. But trust is not a contract this. She tapped the document. This is. The judge looked directly at Robyn now. Did you benefit from any assets managed by Dalton Holdings? Robyn's lips parted, but no sound came out. Finally, she said, we used the funds to pay off our Flagstaff house. I thought that was for all of us. And yet, the judge said flatly, you are the only wife listed on that deed. The silence was volcanic. And in that stillness, Cody looked at Janelle for the first time, not with anger, not with fear, but with something colder, recognition. He finally knew what she had become. Not just a wife, not just a problem, but the prosecutor he never saw coming. What if the most dangerous witness isn't the loudest, but the one with the quietest folder? The judge recessed for 10 minutes. But the tension didn't leave the room. It settled in deeper. Robyn sat motionless, her eyes locked on the table, her fingers nervously twisting the hem of her sleeve. Cody leaned toward his attorney, whispering rapidly. But whatever strategy they were building, Janelle had already dismantled it. Quietly, systematically. When the judge returned, he spoke with a calm that carried weight. At this point, we will enter into Evidence Exhibit D, a postnuptial agreement dated August 2015, submitted by Miss Brown. It includes a clause that may supersede several prior verbal arrangements. Janelle stood and opened the binder again. She flipped to a section marked Postnups and Promises. The page she presented wasn't flashy. No color-coded highlighter. No dramatic signatures. Just a black and white copy of a document Cody thought had been long forgotten, because he never filed it, but Janelle did. This is the agreement Cody asked me to sign when he was setting up the LLCs. He said it was just paperwork, said it wouldn't be legal unless we filed it. But I kept a copy, and I had it notarized separately because something about it didn't sit right. She looked directly at him now. And thank God I did, the judge adjusted his glasses. Clause 7 states, in the event that any funds from a shared marital account are redirected into a private entity or holding company, all legal spouses shall be considered equal shareholders unless otherwise disclosed in writing to said parties. He looked up. Was this disclosure ever made, Mr. Brown? Cody hesitated. It wasn't filed with the court, so it's not enforceable. That wasn't the question, the judge snapped. Was disclosure made? Cody's voice dropped. The judge continued. Therefore, unless contested further, this clause places Miss Janelle Brown in equal legal claim to the entirety of Dalton Holdings' asset portfolio, including the Flagstaff property, investment distributions and residuals from TLC, related payments managed through said LLC. Robyn's head dropped. Christine leaned back and whispered something inaudible to Mary, who, despite everything, cracked the ghost of a smile. Janelle wasn't done. There's one more thing, Your Honor. She pulled out a slim envelope from the back of the binder. This is a digital storage receipt from Dropbox. I downloaded every financial report from the LLC folder before Cody locked me out in 2022, and I made a copy. That's what I handed to the IRS. The courtroom exploded, not with noise, but with movement. Cody's lawyer leapt to object. Robyn's hands flew to her face. Christine sat forward like a woman bracing for a wave she knew was about to crash. And the judge, he didn't blink. You gave this to the IRS already? He asked. I did, Janelle replied, and their office contacted me last week. They've initiated a formal review. For the first time, Cody looked small, like a man no longer controlling the stage, but standing trial on it because this wasn't just a courtroom showdown anymore. It was the beginning of a federal investigation, and Janelle, she hadn't just pulled out a binder. She'd pulled the pin on a grenade. You never expect the quiet one to bring the federal government into your family fight, but Janelle just did. It was one thing for Janelle to leave bombshells on the stand, but it was another thing entirely when she dropped the news that the IRS had called her back already, not with additional questions, but with a file number and an official case agent assigned to her. The moment she said the words, the judge's demeanor altered. This was no longer about fiscal deception. It was now within the purview of federal fraud review. And suddenly, Cody Brown's kingdom wasn't only falling apart. It was being investigated. Janelle, as serene as ever, relinquished a printed email with the IRS letterhead, case number, and name of the investigator. They verified that this case does qualify under the threshold of a forensic audit. In particular, they're investigating several offenses under Title 26 and Title 18 of the U.S. Cody's attorney jumped into a heated protest, objecting as this was prejudicial. Hearsay, inappropriate disclosure in a civil family matter. But the judge cut him off curtly. Overruled. She is not testifying to guilt. She is proving intent and action taken. He addressed himself to Cody. Mr. Brown, did you know the IRS had opened a file on Dalton Holdings? Silence. Then Cody slowly blinked and replied, Yes, Robyn gasped audibly. Christine's eyes went wide. Mary leaned forward in shock. Janelle didn't budge. She didn't have to. The room was already reeling from the truthquake Cody had just validated. So, the judge spoke. His voice soft. You did know of an active IRS investigation, and you did not reveal this during proceedings on assets or to parties involved, Cody grumbled. It wasn't family business. It is a misunderstanding. One they audit everyone now. But nobody was accepting it anymore, because what followed wasn't simply about concealing money. Janelle had the emails, PDF printouts, between Cody and a financial planner, in which he wrote specifically about how to protect earnings from the family's internal disputes and move high-risk assets into untouchable buckets. In one message dated 6 months prior to Christine's departure, Cody had written, The LLC must remain invisible. They'll come for it eventually. And now they had. The judge looked visibly shaken as he read through the flagged messages. This seems to indicate a willful effort to conceal marital assets from legal division, he hesitated. That is not merely civil concealment, Mr. Brown. That borders on criminal misrepresentation. Cody's mouth opened to speak, but the low sound of Christine's laughter in the courtroom stopped him. She wasn't smirking. She was exhausted. Exhausted from being dismissed. Exhausted from being gaslit. Exhausted from being informed the money wasn't available, when in fact it was just under a different title and passed through an LLC none of them had ever had use of. Janelle didn't only show Cody lied, she showed he schemed the lie to the last penny. Nobody anticipated the next domino would fall for Mary. For decades, she had dwelled in the shadows of doubt, embracing neutrality as armor. But on that courtroom floor, among truth and betrayal and stacks of financial papers, something in her finally broke. It was not about money. It was about dignity, decades, and being used like a pawn in a kingdom of deceit. As Janelle quietly pushed yet another page forward, Mary stood up, without encouragement. The judge furrowed an eyebrow. Miss Brown? She didn't require permission. Your Honor, I'd like to submit something of my own. Cody's eyes widened. Robyn stiffened. Even Christine, who thought she had seen it all, turned in her seat to watch. Mary reached into her handbag and pulled out an old checkbook. This is the personal check register for the Vegas house I sold in 2018. Cody instructed me to put $180,000 into what he referred to as the Family Land Trust Fund. She moved so that she could confront Cody head on. You told me it was going toward development on Coyote Pass, toward a future together. She stopped, then asked, But there is no Family Land Trust Fund, is there? Janelle whispered, It never existed. Mary's hand trembled as she handed the check stub to the court clerk. The judge reviewed it, eyes narrowing as he read the memo line for CP Dev Family Equity. Then there was the record transfer, obviously paid into an account in Brown Consolidated Holdings. The very same shadow company Janelle had linked to the newly audited Dalton Holdings. The courtroom erupted. Christine's lawyer leapt to call for an immediate injunction. Financial. Robyn finally lost her voice. "This isn't fair," Cody told me. "He told us all it was for our future." Her voice strained under the pressure of her own collapsing defenses, but the judge was no longer in the mood for emotion. "You were on the deed. You were on the transfer forms. You were on the trust documents. The court doesn't deal in belief. It deals in paper trails." Then, in one of the most shocking reversals of the trial, Mary added softly, "I also got a wire from Dalton Holdings, $62,000. Cody said it was a loan. She said I deserved something for staying quiet during Christine's exit. I had no idea that money was from the Vegas sale from all of us." Now stood Cody, but he said nothing. He was seething with the eyes, angry that the house of secrets he constructed one signature at a time was falling apart from the inside out. "When even Mary turns against you, it is not a betrayal, it is an execution." As the drama came to a head, Janelle did something that transfixed the entire courtroom into a stunned silence. She reached into her oversized leather satchel, pulled out a black binder, thick, tabbed, and worn at the corners, and said, "Your Honor, this is the full financial log I've kept for the past 6 years." The judge leaned forward. Even the court reporter stopped typing momentarily. "I call it the Book of Promises, because every entry starts with one." She flipped to the first tab. January 2019, Cody swore. "We'd each receive equal portions of the Coyote Pass property. He promised each wife her own lot. But here," she waved a notarized land deed. "He put only himself and Robyn down as primary title holders on the western section, including the access road, septic planning, and water rights." The document was handed to the bench. Christine leaned over to whisper, "She has been stalking this since Vegas?" Mary did not respond. She stared ahead, lips compressed. Tab after tab was opened. April 2020, Cody said he used family money to pay tax debt, but the binder revealed his own personal LLC received $74,000 on the exact day family tax check cleared. September 2021, Janelle contributed money for a cabin project. Receipts indicated Robyn spent that money on renovations for a rental house in Flagstaff. In her sole name, each successive page was another nail in Cody's defense inbox. But the revelation that followed was horrific. "Your Honor," Janelle said, turning to the red-tabbed page marked discrepancies, "this indicates that from 2018 through 2023, more than $1.7 million was transferred between our joint accounts and 3 private firms Cody never revealed. I tracked the accounts to a Wyoming LLC listed in his cousin's name, but the money was from our show paychecks, our book contracts, our cameos, our speaking tours." The judge fixed her gaze on the binder, unblinking. Christine whispered to her lawyer, "She really did it. She tracked it all the way." And then Janelle turned and looked right at Cody and gave the line that would be a headline quote for weeks. "You taught us to live by the principle of one family, one fund. What you really did was one man, 5 piggy banks." Not only did she open the binder, she opened the gates of hell, where every lie had a receipt. Cody Brown fancied himself a master persuader, all charming smiles and confidence, and the ability to play with tension like a puppeteer playing with puppets. But Part 9 of the courtroom drama unfolded something that even his most ardent supporters had never witnessed. Cody, stripped bare and unraveling in real time, with Janelle's binder lying like an armed threat on the witness table and the courtroom abuzz with whispers. Cody requested, in defiance of his own lawyer's frantic urging, to testify. The bailiff administered the oath. "Cody Brown," the judge intoned, gaze firm. "You are sworn. You've read the receipts, the wire transfers, the hidden LLCs. Do you contest any of the records produced by Miss Janelle Brown today?" Cody paused. His fingers beat in rhythm against the witness box. He glanced around. Robyn had eyes wide, not encouraging, but fearful. Christine avoided his gaze. Mary sat frozen. Janelle folded her arms, challenging him to tell another lie. Cody swallowed hard. "I didn't mean to lie to them." The courtroom was suddenly silent. "You didn't mean to lie to them," the judge echoed. "Why didn't you reveal the Wyoming LLC? Why did you sign land allocation contracts with just Robyn? but take down payments from all 4 wives. Cody fidgeted, because it wasn't like that. They were trusting me. They knew I was taking care of things. I was trying to shield them from the intricacies. The judge cocked an eyebrow, or from the truth. A wave of whispered, "Oh my God," rolled through the gallery. Janelle stood. "Permission to submit one last file, Your Honor." It was a flash drive. Inside were video clips from family meetings, unedited and time-stamped, showing Cody making verbal commitments to each wife about land ownership, funds, and joint investments. Each vow defied the paper trail. The judge slowly nodded, like the snap of a completed puzzle. Cody glanced toward the gallery for any hint of Mercinone came. He muttered to himself on the hot mic, "This is all unraveling over that stupid binder." When the man who constructed the empire owns up to the scam, the court does not merely observe guilt, it can smell blood. The courtroom, which had churned with tension for days, finally reached its climax. After Janelle's unequivocal evidence, video footage, and incriminating financial record, and after Cody's own disintegrating testimony, there was only one thing remaining: the verdict. And as the judge emerged from chambers, preceded by a hush that descended like fog over the room, every camera in the media pit was rolling. This was it, the day the world got to witness Cody Brown answer not only to his wives, but to the law. "All rise," cried the bailiff. Cody rose to his feet, his lawyer white-faced and speechless. Janelle sat still, her face serene. "Not mean, just finished." The judge cleared his throat and glared around the courtroom like a teacher, poised to flunk a golden boy who never expected to get caught cheating. After consideration of all evidence submitted, testimony, and financial records, the judge started, "This court concludes Mr. Cody Brown in fiduciary duty breach, marital funds misappropriation, and knowing concealment of community assets." Christine gasped out loud. Robyn extended Cody's hand. He did not take it. "As such," the judge went on, "Mr. Brown is ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $3.1 million to Miss Janelle Brown and $600,000 to Miss Christine Brown for undisclosed fund transfer damage." Robyn slumped into her hands. Cody's knees slightly buckled. He clutched the table for support. "And in addition," the judge continued with incisive accuracy, "a complete audit of all accounts associated with Brown Family Enterprises, the Sister Wives Trust, and any shell companies that are revealed to us in the course of this trial will be begun immediately. If additional fraud is discovered, criminal charges could be pursued." The courtroom erupted. Undefined reporters struggled to post headlines. "Undefined Cody Brown ordered to pay millions. Janelle's evidence wins the day," was typed and published before he could even take a seat. Janelle took a deep breath, slow and long. Undefined Christine turned to her and mouthed, "You just saved all of us." Even Mary, who had been so long silent, mouthed a quiet thank you. But Cody, he glared up, red-eyed and furious. Undefined did not at the judge. Undefined did not at the media. Undefined but at Janelle. "You ruined everything," he muttered. Janelle stood and answered, loud enough for everyone in the court to hear. "No, Cody, Undefined, you did. I simply stopped allowing you to lie about it." The court didn't just render a judgment, it ignited the platform of everything Cody constructed. As the judge left and the courtroom quieted, all eyes turned not on Cody, but on Robyn Brown. For years, she had been the whispered subject of favoritism, the supposed mastermind behind Cody's money manipulation, and the stealthy shadow over every missing dollar. But now, there was no place to hide. The court's conclusion didn't only implicate Cody. It brought Robyn into the messy web of hidden LLCs, co-signed loans, and trust fund misappropriations. And as reporters closed in, it was she who was about to break. A microphone picked up her muttering under tears. "They're going to come after me now." Janelle had stepped outside, the verdict behind her. Cody had already stormed into a side room with his lawyer, declining to speak to the press. But Robyn stayed, immobilized, embarrassed, and alone. A court officer walked over softly and told her, "Ma'am, the forensic accounting will involve your signature on the Brown Robyn Holdings account. You might want to obtain independent counsel." Her complexion went pale. Mary passed by her as she left. No hug, no goodbye tears, just a glance, and the gentle words, "Now you know how it feels." At the same time, on the steps of the courthouse, Christine had already started talking. "We didn't want it to come to this," she explained to the camera crews. "But when someone uses your children's future to pay for someone else's mansion, you don't stay quiet anymore." The media devoured it. Headlines were spinning. Kody's downfall. How Janelle and Christine toppled a dynasty. Robyn drawn into it. Court to probe new accounts. Just as the courtroom started to clear and media hype hummed with headlines over Kody's multi-million-dollar fine, a surprise twist shattered what little decorum remained. A clerk, serene yet resolute, emerged and handed another packet to Kody's defense team. Another suit had been filed, and this one wasn't from Janelle. It was from Christine Brown. The timing was exact, calculated, and completely heartbreaking. As Kody shook the papers in shock, he let out a sour, desiccated laughter that ricocheted through the vacant benches. "Unbelievable," he grumbled, but to Christine, it was only the start of her justice. Her lawsuit charged emotional and financial abuse, citing withheld earnings from the family business, unpaid dividends from the My Sister Wife's Closet venture, and forged signatures on initial LLC transfer documents she asserted Kody and Robyn processed upon her exit from the family. One letter obtained through subpoena indicated Kody signing for her months after she had already departed the marriage. "He used my name to continue pouring money into Robyn's accounts," Christine informed the media. "And now he is going to have to pay for it again." Back in the courtroom, the lawyer for Kody's changed from belligerent defense to frantic damage control. "This could reopen every single business account," he cautioned. "If Christine's team gets access, the IRS might not be far behind." Kody buried his face in his hands. His world, his empire, was unraveling by the minute, and it didn't stop there. Another journalist approached Christine's lawyer and asked if criminal charges were being considered. The lawyer paused, just long enough for the room to hang on every word, and said, "We're not ruling anything out." Robyn, watching from the hallway, looked physically ill. It was no longer Kody alone on the chopping block. It was all the economic engine they had built in secret, and it was now being disassembled in public court. If Janelle was domino number one, Christine was the avalanche, and she had receipts, dates, and signatures. It became known as the binder by insiders in the courtroom, a heavy, tattered leather-bound book Janelle had stashed away for years. Inside, the cold, hard facts that at last turned the scales of justice against Kody Brown. Not rumor, not suspicion. Ledger sheets, receipts, wire transfers, land valuations, legal contracts, and most incriminating of all, discrepant signatures. What began as a quiet uprising turned into a solid, airtight case, page-by-page cross. Examination brought out that Janelle had secretly gathered all of these documents since 2017, after she had seen money from the shared family account being routinely diverted into side businesses in Kody and Robyn's names alone. The instant she handed over the binder, the courtroom changed. Kody's lawyers panicked. The judge leaned forward. Journalists began writing with fresh urgency. Unknown central document dated 2021 revealed a huge $487,000 transfer. Purportedly family land gain. Transferred straight into a trust overseen by Robyn. The note alongside it, future security for legal expenses, do not discuss. It was the legal coup d'etat face. Even Kody's demeanor wavered when the judge inquired, "Can you clarify why these funds were transferred without authorization from the other wives, Mr. Brown?" He had no response. Christine sat tight, arms crossed, lips pursed. Mary looked down, her expression inscrutable, and Robyn. Her weeping came back, but this time it was not quiet. It was howling. External to the courtroom, reporters swarmed the steps with breaking news: the binder. Bombshell, Janelle's secret files may open criminal case. Kody caught red-handed, $1.2 million in redirected funds uncovered. Even TLC executives allegedly had an emergency Zoom conference. An anonymous production source spilled a quote, "We knew they were messy, but this is a whole different level. What began as a mother hunting down missing dollars for her children ended with a court banging down a gavel on $1 million lie. $3.7 million verdict crushes Brown family empire." And just when it couldn't get worse, the bombshell was dropped. AATLC representative, standing stone-faced in front of cameras, confirmed. "In light of legal developments, we are suspending production on Sister Wives indefinitely pending internal review. With one judgment, Janelle didn't just take Cody down. She took the cameras, the contracts, and the whole house of cards with him. Tension in the courtroom crackled like a dry twig. Cameras weren't permitted inside, but those in attendance would later attest to the radioactive environment. Robyn Brown, who was once the quiet presence behind Cody's throne, was the new focal point, and not in the manner she'd ever dreamed. With Janelle's binder revealing several huge transfers into Robyn's private accounts, and Christine's lawsuit just filed, the judge looked straight at Robyn and issued a subpoena in the moment. You are hereby commanded to produce all personal financial records, including trust disbursements, LLC accounts, and private expenditures, for the past 5 years, the judge said matter-of-factly. Robyn's mouth opened in shock, and her tears began forming. But no words emerged. Cody attempted to interrupt, but the judge held up a hand. You are not her attorney, Mr. Brown. Sit down. It was the most uncompromising transfer of power so far. Robyn was no longer a witness, but a target. That is when it occurred. Robyn collapsed into the chair, shoulders jerking convulsively. A low moan became a cry. I didn't know, she breathed. I trusted him. Her voice reverberated off the wood paneling of the courtroom. A second later, she burst into Cody's lap, crying hysterically, clutching at his arm for support, but Cody didn't reciprocate. He gazed ahead of him, expressionless, mouth locked tightly shut. His gaze wasn't on Robyn, it was fixed on the judge. He knew it too. This wasn't about plural marriage, reality television, family drama anymore. This was federal. This was fraud. This was prison. Course serious in the hallway. The news spread fast. Janelle's attorney had sent an emergency motion to freeze all assets that belonged to Robyn's trust, and TLC's attorneys had already started to pull contracts, a source email stated. If this gets further, we're walking away. We don't make court trials, we make families. The judge concluded the session with a chilling message. We will reconvene to go over financial disclosures. If any obstruction is found, criminal referrals will be made. Robyn transformed in a single hour from Cody's last faithful wife to the linchpin of a $1 million scandal, caught sobbing into the very lap of the man who destroyed them all. By the time the courtroom opened the next week, it was all changed. Janelle showed up accompanied by 2 lawyers and a financial investigator. Christine entered quietly, but assuredly, carrying a fat folder labeled Exhibit D. Even Mary, usually the wild card, entered with a steadfast calmness, as if she already knew what was to come. Cody, on the other hand, appeared older, slumped, and gaunt with stress. Robyn failed to appear at all. The judge wasted no time, wading through the documentation submitted by Janelle's binder. Financial records gathered from subpoenaed banks, and the testimony of a forensic accountant who authenticated embezzlement trends, the ruling came swift and decisive. This court finds Cody Brown personally liable for the misappropriation of joint family funds, specifically in the amount of $2.15 million over a 7-year period. Gasps filled the courtroom. The judge went on, unmoved. The defendant is ordered to repay these funds in full. In addition, all trusts, holdings, and property dealings related to the Coyote Pass estate are frozen until a further check. Custodial holdover is provisionally given to Janelle Brown and Christine Brown, subject to forensic audit. Cody's jaw dropped open, but the hammer blow had yet to fall. The court also awarded Janelle exclusive access to the joint investment portfolio of the family, in light of her status as the major contributor and custodian of the recorded evidence. In a hushed aftershock, Cody looked at his lawyer and asked, "Can they do that?" The lawyer remained silent. He didn't need to. And then the judge continued speaking. This case is referred to the county prosecutor for potential criminal charges regarding document falsification, misappropriation, and wire fraud. Cody Brown was no longer just being sued. He was under investigation. As he prepared to leave, Cody glanced over the courtroom, not at the judge, but Janelle. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She merely nodded, like a soldier finally back from war. Her proof didn't just compel Cody to shell out millions. It shattered his whole empire wide open outdoors. Fans, reporters, and amazed observers crowded about. A representative from TLC was seen on a call, shaking, saying, "We can't air this, not unless it has a warning label and a new subtitle." and from that day on, the term sister wives would never be used again. Undefined, it was founded on faith, but it collapsed on fraud. Undefined, and the woman once written off as just the quiet one was the one who brought the kingdom crashing down.